I never would have known what our people were going through had you not given me notice. And so you keep doing what you're doing. ATP.
AFTP.
AFTP.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Love you, brother.
Love you.
Wow, man. That was a clip taken from the Instagram of our next guest. AFTP means Always Film the Police, and that's a foundation that he started. This man literally puts his life on the line every day for the rights of people in the community. I started following his Instagram at one point. I don't even know why I started following it, but I thought it was really interesting what he was doing. He goes by the name of Mr. Checkpoint. That's his pseudonym, had to be, because he started making people aware of different police checkpoints in their community so they can know when they're, and a lot of times in these checkpoints, specific demographics are being targeted by these organizations, as I call it, man. His real name is Sennett Devermont. But AKA Mr. Checkpoint, and he's been an advocate to this case about LaKeith Smith, who's a 15-year-old who was caught stealing video games in the unoccupied spaces. And one of the people he was with, a young man by the name of Adante Washington. Adante Washington was actually shot and killed, shot in the back. And as a result, LaKeith was taken on trial. He was shot and killed by a police officer in the back, Adante was. And when LaKeith went to trial, he was sentenced at 15 years of age to 65 years in prison. And since then, it's just been an outrage in that community. And Sennett, a.k.a. Mr. Checkpoint, has been advocating to get that sentence overturned. It has been reduced to 30 years by a very questionable judge. And we're going to get into that as well. But our purpose today is to bring more awareness to LaKeith Smith's case. So citizens, as we do on this show, we're all about what's fair. We're all about our rights, our personal rights in the community. We're all about utilizing this platform to bring these questions to mind, to make you aware of things, because these things can and will affect you and will affect and impact your lives and your community. Some of these judges don't need to be on the stand. We always talk about Vote Quadrant. Mike Muse created this initiative to teach you how to vote on local areas so you can make sure the right people are appointed to the right jobs. And so I want to welcome him to the show. Give him a big round of applause. Sennett Devermont, a.k.a. Mr. Checkpoint, right now. Yes. And if you feel like you've experienced some injustice and you want to talk about your story, please call up 888-742-3345. Also joining him is my sister, a great friend of mine, someone who's been, steadfast in the community for years.
Yeah.
I met her in the Bay Area. A lot of people know her as being Tupac's first manager and really just helping him develop as a human being and get his purpose and his cause out at an early age. As a teenager, she was the person that would take him around community stages and allow him to speak his truth to a lot of kids who were very influenced by him and he was extremely relatable. Around that same time, I actually done work with her as well as a young man, and then we went around to different community areas and spoke to kids in a similar fashion. She also is known for managing Earl Sweatshirt. She's the founder of Aim for the Heart Foundation, right? And in there, a lot of times when I was doing work with the Last Mile with Chris Redlitz and the Bev Parenti organization, we would go to different places like San Quentin. She was already there. She's been going to places like San Quentin since the early 90s, and through poetry and art has helped people really just with mental illness, with expression, with just getting through it all. She's a real advocate to the community, 10 toes down. She's very essential in this new docuseries, Dear Mama, that talks about the relationship between Afeni Shakur and Tupac Shakur. The one and only Layla Steinberg is here. Layla.
Woo!
Layla Steinberg, Tracy G.
Wow.
They are here. Yes.
This is important.
This is an important conversation. Sennett or Mr. Checkpoint, what should I call you?
Mr. Checkpoint.
Mr.
Cool.
Checkpoint. Okay. If you go on his Instagram, you'll just see you learn so much. I learned so much from your Instagram, and we've been communicating for a second now about this LaKeith Smith conversation. Who is LaKeith Smith, and why should people know about this case?
LaKeith Smith was a 15-year-old, and he was with a group of friends, and he was going into unoccupied homes and taking video games. That's when the Alabama police came in and the boys ran. And unfortunately, the Alabama police officers, Mark Renfro and AJ Renfro and Mark Ritter are the Alabama police officers that shot Adante Washington in the back as the boys were running. LaKeith Smith got away. He later turned himself in. And at that time, he found himself in a courtroom with Judge Sibley Reynolds and was given, as you said, a 65-year sentence for the murder he didn't commit. Felony murder rule allows us to be charged for murders we aren't responsible for if we're in the act of committing a felony.
Wow.
And in Alabama specific, it's written specifically that the person who commits the murder is supposed to be a participant of the crime. So I'd ask us if the Alabama police officers are participants of the crime. I think we would all say no. So the idea that LaKeith Smith's being charged for the murder that the cops committed is really that law being misapplied and abused in Alabama. And we are fighting every day. His family and his mom, Brontina Smith, has been fighting for over 8 years to bring awareness to his case. And just 3-4 weeks ago, we had a resentencing hearing, and that same judge, Sibley Reynolds, came out of retirement to hear LaKeith's case, see a courtroom full of supporters who traveled all over the country, including Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., Jacob Blake Sr., family of Breonna Taylor, a pastor. Adante Washington's father, Andre, testified and said, LaKeith isn't responsible for my son's death. LaKeith should be home with his family. LaKeith has been in a maximum security prison, a level 5, level 6 prison in Alabama. That's like a death camp. They are violent. He is with people who have done heinous crimes, and he's never done anything violent. He's never hurt anybody. He was in a home stealing video game. So the story and the injustice of LaKeith Smith is one that is happening 1,000 times over every day in our country. And I think every day needs to be LaKeith Smith Day until he's home. Because if it can happen to him, it could truly happen to anybody.
When you talk about the injustice, let's talk about the sentencing that he received from this particular judge, Judge
Sibley Reynolds.
Judge Sibley Reynolds. In other cases, in the way that she sentenced other criminals who have done other type of crimes, can you give an example of what the injustice looks like in the terms of LaKeith's sentencing compared to other cases?
Yeah, that's a good question. So about a year before LaKeith's case, Judge Sibley Reynolds heard a guy's case named David Carr. David Carr beat his girlfriend's 3-year-old to death. The 3-year-old is dead. And David Carr was given 15 years in 1 day by Judge Sibley Reynolds. Now, fast forward a year later, on the day LaKeith Smith was sentenced to 65 years, in the same day, the same courtroom, and of course that same judge listened to another case of 28-year-old Wesley Phelps. Wesley Phelps had been in trouble before for abusing a minor, and this time he was in court because he had stolen a car, and when the cops pulled him over, he put them on a police chase, and he crashed the car caught on fire, and it killed his girlfriend in the fire.
Wow.
Wesley Phelps was given 3 years for being responsible for killing his girlfriend. He has since been free. He has since been locked up several times. And while LaKeith has spent every day in a maximum security prison since he's 15 years old, if you can't see the injustice, the two discrepancies of killing someone, these two individuals are responsible for killing someone, and they were given half the time or substantially less the amount of time than you gave a 15-year-old LaKeith Smith.
There is really no justification for it, but what is the explanation? Does the judge even answer to why the sentencing is just so unbalanced and obviously unfair?
The judge was specific in some of these other cases. When I looked him up, he said that, David Carr had a good support system at home. After killing a 3-year-old, he could go home in 15 years in 1 day because he had a good support system. I believe Judge Sibley Reynolds looked in that courtroom with the support LaKeith had that, again, is unusual. It's people traveling all over the country saying, we support him, we vouch for him, we have his back. I don't think that's happened in this judge's courtroom many times before, if at all. And he looked at that and said, LaKeith deserves 30 more years. I believe it's racism at its core. These two individuals that I've explained, Wesley Phelps and David Carr, who was given 3 years and 15 years in one day for being responsible for killing people, are white. LaKeith Smith is black. They gave a 15-year-old, they charged him as an adult for something he did not do. There's no justice in that.
I want to give out, like, now so far, if you tuned into this, right, if you tuned into this channel and to this show, I'm sure this story has moved you one way or another. The purpose of telling this story is to send more support, to bring more awareness, to bring the public more so involved. There's an email address I want people who feel like what you just heard is wrong. I want you to hit up this email address, and when you hit up this email address, it will address a ton of people, including the judge that sentenced LaKeith, right, even though that judge is retired, but other judges and other officials that need to know about it. What is that email, and tell us how that email works.
So if you go to freelakeith.com, free LaKeith, LaKeith.com, freelakeith.com, it will bring you to a link tree essentially, which has a couple links. One is the GoFundMe for the mom, but the second link is an email tool. When you click it, it opens up your email browser, and it's filled out to the Attorney General, several judges, the mayor, and a lot of people that we think should know about this and be aware. And you just click send. You can edit it if you'd like, but if you want to just send it as is, you can. And we've had over 10,000 emails go out in the last 3 weeks. We've been fortunate to have celebrities start sharing this movement and saying LaKeith's name. Kris Jenner is one of those people who sent an email. Kim Kardashian has shared it. We've had the support of Rihanna, Lil Boozy, Tyrese, and really many more. I mean, being here is a huge opportunity and honor to be able to say LaKeith's name in this mic and get more people knowing about it.
We'll send a love and strength to his family.
Wow.
Once again, give that email again.
freelakeith.com, freelakeith.com. That's going to be the email tool is in there. There's also a way where you can click on it and you can send LaKeith a letter directly to him. So he needs this support. You know, he's not going to be home today or the next day. So how do we send him support, encouragement? You can write him. You can send his family some financial contribution, which helps them continue this fight, and send the email.
Wow.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. I'm probably like many of our citizens who listen to the show, I was unaware of this. I had no idea. And it's just blowing my mind because not only was this boy at 15 years old sentenced to 55 or 60 some odd years, I want to know a couple of things. How was he represented in court? You know, what happens if he does get out? Does he go under some sort of like mental evaluation? Like, people don't think about the trauma after you come out of prison to sit there and know that you were charged with a crime that you did not commit. And then thirdly, I think what we always see sometimes with presidents and people getting pardoned for nonviolent crimes, would he fall under a category like this since he did not commit the crime? And how would it get to that level for the president to be aware?
No, those are all really good questions. So in terms of the last one, the pardon, I don't believe the president can pardon him because this isn't a federal case. So we're looking for the governor, Kay Ivey, to do that.
The governor of Alabama.
The governor of Alabama could pardon him and send him home and do time served. The other thing is, how to transition him in his counsel. He's represented by attorney Leroy Maxwell, who's an amazing lawyer in Alabama, civil rights attorney, and we are so thankful for his support. He's been doing an amazing job, despite the actual racism going on in these courtrooms. What Attorney Maxwell presented at the resentencing hearing wasn't even for LaKeith to just come straight home. It was actually for him to go into programs for, I believe it was 2 years, to transition and to do that. Again, the judge responded with this to say LaKeith deserves 30 years in this maximum security prison. So we have been, really working on the support. I think Layla's nonprofit Aim for the Heart is an amazing place where people are rehabilitated, people are able to express themselves. And I know that LaKeith has been able to participate even in Layla's program while inside and actually has written a poem and we've tried to really inspire him through that.
Yeah.
So I think, with Layla and other supports of the community, we can make sure.
Did you also mention that this judge, he came out of retirement just to come back to put his hate on national display?
That's absolutely correct. He came out of retirement to hear LaKeith's case. Vice News is doing a documentary about this for over 1 year now. And, they've been interviewing the DA, for example, who actually in the interview says comments that you wouldn't believe when he says different comments. The DA, C.J. Robinson, in the Vice interview says that if this happened today, he thinks that the officer's actions would be looked at 5 times more, diligently. And did they do the right thing? Was it a justified killing, actually? But what's interesting is if you look at when this occurred and when they gave LaKeith a 65-year sentence, that DA, C.J. Robinson's comments weren't that. He actually said that LaKeith could have deserved 200 plus years, that LaKeith's stupidity is why he's in there. And he made really gross comments that, we're going to keep making sure that the people are aware that this is how these DAs, these prosecutors, these judges speak, talk, and think about the people.
Whatever happened with the officers? Are they still on duty?
We've heard nothing about the officers. Unfortunately, this is 8 years ago. It was before George Floyd. I think the idea that officers are unjustly killing people was questioned substantially more.
Yeah.
The convo's changed in today's times, but I have zero doubt that there's been any accountability for those officers. I wouldn't be surprised if they were still officers. I would say nothing negative has ever happened from them from them being responsible for killing 16-year-old Adante Washington.
Shot him in the back.
My goodness.
No threat at all. Running. Shot him in the back. And then LaKeith is suffering a sentence for that, which is why Layla wanted to come this morning, because you wanted to talk about it, right? Felony murder.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's what the work has always been about. It's why I work with artists. It's how do we hit critical mass? How do we reach people? And artists have incredible power. And Dear Mama just came out. What would Tupac be doing now? Tupac would be on a mission that every day is LaKeith Day until we bring him home. And I'm just committed to the work. We got to do the work every day.
We got to do the work every day. You really believe Tupac would be right front
he
and
would
center?
be right here. He would be fighting. We have to deconstruct this system, and I have faith. We've seen change. Otherwise, I would have given up a long time ago. But the fact that you have us on this platform, you have millions of people paying attention, and that they can go to the website and that they can sign the paperwork. 10,000 is cool, but we need millions.
We need millions, right?
Millions. And so, I always work with artists. I gave the assignment to all the artists I work with to do a song to help us generate awareness. So I don't know if you guys can play.
Yeah, we're going to play at the at the end of this conversation. We're going to end it with one of the songs.
But I would definitely encourage you to go to the site, download the songs, play them. They tell the story of what happened, and our artists need to support and get involved because they have impact. That a lot of times conversation doesn't work. And there are a lot more judges that need to be held accountable. One other thing, Sennett always talks about jury duty.
Mm-hmm.
Jurors are emotional human beings. What do jury rooms look like? What do jurors look like? They look more like Sennett and I than they look like you.
Mm-hmm.
We have to change that. We need Black and brown people to show up, to serve, to be in courtrooms, to change the faces of what's happening.
LaKeith was presented in front of an all-white jury, right? Let's give out that email. I want to continue. If you're hearing this and it's touching a chord in your heart and your consciousness, it's nothing to send an email. We post things on our social media every day that mean nothing.
Nothing.
But this will mean something if you could send an email.
FreeLaKeith.com, www.freelakeith.com, and it's LAKEITH.com. And it takes less than 10 seconds. If you see there, are those emails just flying in, right?
Yeah, actually, I see that, yeah.
So people, you are sending them, you are
Okay.
clicking, and it works. I mean, it takes 10 seconds, and the email goes to those it should, and it says the things it should. If you want to add anything, please do. But That's what's needed. All hands on deck.
We need you guys until LaKeith comes home.
Okay, and we're going to be talking about this all the time. It's interesting you bring up jury duty because our very own Tracy G, who's in New York right now, you can see her actually on the screen. She's live with us.
Hey.
Just summoned for jury duty, right, Tracy?
Wow. It was my very, very first time. And, the common sentiment is, dang, this is such an obligation. But when I went to jury duty and everything was broken down, I said, no, this is my privilege. And I really understood the power of representation and also how at one point I would never have been called to jury duty, all of that. So, Layla, I really salute you for bringing the importance of jury up to our listeners. This is one of the most appalling things I've ever heard in my life about LaKeith.
It happens every day, though. That's the whole point.
Right.
LaKeith is just one example, and it's always black and brown young people that are caught up in the system. And I really appreciate that you went to jury duty.
Yes, I did.
Huge.
Yes, I did. And I will go again. LaKeith is 23 now, because this happened 8 years ago. Layla,
He's 24. He
24.
turned 24 March 1st. Yeah.
Wow.
So still so much of his youth that's being spent behind bars. Layla, with your nonprofit, you had mentioned how LaKeith was able to utilize art and poetry, much like Pac. I'm so curious if you guys have been able to understand a bit of his mental state right now, and if you're able to share that and how art has been a form of coping for him.
I would say Sennett probably could answer that better than I could, but what I will say is when you are in a cage, you are daily getting barraged, and it's damaging to the nervous system. And so for me, with Aim for the Heart, it's always been about emotional literacy and emotional healing. The mind follows the heart. So if you get the heart, you can take the mind anywhere. And so my focus has always been to help people manage their pain and understand their feelings. And to be able to release pain is the beginning. And so for LaKeith to be able to process what he's going through and to write is super important. And Sennett talks to him every day. And, he's a survivor. He is a strong young man, and God gave him this mission, and so he stands for so many other people. He just happens to be who we're focused on right now.
Yeah. I guess to touch on that and to be clear, LaKeith's co-defendants, were given 17 years to 28 years. One of them is already home. So LaKeith was offered a 25-year plea deal. He didn't take it because he didn't kill his friend. He didn't understand saying I was, my friend's murderer. So it didn't resonate. He wanted a jury trial. An all-white jury, convicted him, and he gets 65 years. In terms of his, it's so scary to think he's small. He's been one of the youngest people in this maximum security prison his whole life, right? If you go into 15 or 24 year, the smallest and youngest nearly the whole time. I'll read a quote or a message he sent me. One thing I'll say is he meditates a lot. He practices spirituality. He's very faith-based and really, dives in. And he's wrote, I'm feeling, this was after the resentencing hearing when he found out he was going to get 30 years or reduced to 30 years. It said, I'm feeling okay. I always pray for the best and be prepared for the worst. I knew that was the worst that could have happened, and we're still moving closer to freedom. So I got to take the good with the bad. It's not over, and he continues to be strong in there, despite incredibly violent, dangerous, and unsafe circumstances.
I want to give out this email, citizens. This was important for us to bring to this platform. We're going to continue to give out this email even when our guests leave. We're going to always bring this up until we can find the proper justice for LaKeith Smith.
Yes.
So you don't have to you don't even have to leave your chair. If this is something that, resonates with you as it should, because it could be you or somebody in your family, just send an email on your phone right now while you're listening to this show. Send an email to
freelakeith.com. www.freelakeith.com, and if you click the second link, it's the email tool. It'll open up your email browser and it takes 10 seconds to send the email. I see a lot of you doing it right now, and it's mega appreciated. All the judges receive this email and know that we're watching, that we know what occurred, and that we want change.
We want change. And if you want change, www.freelakeith.com. We're going to play this song by an artist by the name of Jay Hoon, right?
I don't know which one you're going to play, but we have Louis King and Jay Hoon.
We're going to play Think.
Okay.
That's the one you want to play first, or you want to play the other one?
Either or half of both. They're both really tell you the story. They're incredible, and they're donating their songs to help us with the cause.
Okay, so these songs you can also find on the website, www.freelakeithsmith.com. I know Heather B has to head to Urban View.
I do have to head to Urban View, but right now I'm just posting this. Like,
Okay.
I was not aware. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for everything. My friends are just hitting me back like, what? Wow. So thank you guys so much. And I think, Sway, thank you, because it's important that we have this information as working, voting citizens every single day. We need to know about things like this, no matter which states we are in, because this could be one of ours.
Absolutely, Heather. Thank you very much, too.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, y'all stay. We're going to take one or two callers after we play this song. Let's start with Jay Hoon, Think. All right, and you can find us at www.freelakeithsmith.com, and we're going to take a call or two, 888-742-3345. That song right there is called Think by an artist by the name of Jay Hoon, Jaehoon. We're talking about the case of LaKeith Smith. At 15 years of age, he was sentenced to 65 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. He was a young man along with another young man who were they actually were still in video games out of unoccupied homes. No people were in the homes, and when caught by the police, they attempted to run, and the police shot his friend Adante.
Yep, Adante Washington.
In the back and killed him, and LaKeith was sentenced for the murder to 65 years by a judge by the name of
Judge Sibley Reynolds.
The same day, there was a criminal in the courtroom who had committed murder directly, right?
Yep.
Can you speak to that?
Wesley Phelps was the 28-year-old who had been in trouble before for abusing a minor, and on this time he was in court because he stole a car, put the police on a high-speed pursuit chase, crashed the car, caught on fire, killed his girlfriend in the passenger seat. Judge Sibley Reynolds gave Wesley Phelps 3 years, and after giving Wesley Phelps 3 years, he looked at LaKeith Smith, who was 15 years old, stole video games, and charged him for the murder that the Alabama police officers committed.
In other cases that this same judge ruled on, where the crimes were committed by the actual person, you spoke about an example of how the rulings are unfairly weighted.
Yep, David Carr is a gentleman who beat his girlfriend's 3-year-old to death and was given 15 years and 1 day.
Yeah. And so the voice you're hearing is Mr. Checkpoint. That's what he goes by on Instagram. He does a lot of work in the community. His real name is Sennett Devermont. And also Layla Steinberg, who's with us right now, Aim for the Heart Foundation, and who's been an advocate in the community for years. I've known Layla for decades, and we've done work together. People know her from managing Tupac, Earl Sweatshirt, and doing a whole lot of stuff inside of institutions. We are trying to spread the word, citizens. If you think this is unfair, which I'm sure you do, you could send an email out to
freelakeith.com, freelakeith, LaKeith.com, and you click on the link there. You can send the email. There's also a way you can send LaKeith a letter himself. You can check out the family's GoFundMe. If the email tool doesn't work for a second, just try again in a minute. I think you have a lot of people hitting it up. I see the emails just flying in one after another.
Here's the thing. Xavier is in Tennessee. You were saying the email list didn't work for you, right, Xavier?
So basically, I was trying to put in an email. I know that's in Alabama, but I'm in Tennessee, and it did touch some chords here in the heart. I wanted to send an email, but it says that it's not ready for my area yet. So I wanted to know, how can I send an email?
It should just open up your email browser, and you should just hit send. If you go to freelakeith.com, you hit that second link. It should not matter where you're from. In fact, there's people, I believe, even maybe out of the country sending this. So I think if it opens up your email browser, it should hit allow you to send.
Try it again. A lot of people are sending emails to Xavier, and we appreciate your engagement, brother. You're a super citizen. Tracy, hit him with
Up
it.
Sway in the morning.
We got Rich on the line. He's our resident attorney, and whenever we talk about legal issues, he always calls up. Now, Rich, tell these folks what it is that you do.
So I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I do appreciate what you guys are doing currently. I want to give a shout out to you guys for bringing attention to this and for bringing to light these issues that don't necessarily always get the attention that they need. And I just wanted to address on a couple of things you guys have said. First of all, advocacy, what you guys are doing, and then representation is so important. Representation goes from the bench to the DA's office to the criminal defense attorney to the jury. And so representation matters in the sense of legal representation, but also representation for a black male in this, society in which they view black males as criminals. And so not only is it important that there are people that look like him in all these different spaces, but there are people that understand LaKeith in these different positions so that he can get a fair shot. And speaking to the felony murder law, which is a horrible law and which allows people to get sentenced for crimes to which they did not commit, that is exactly why he got what he got, because these other individuals, which I knew exactly, as you said, they got 15 years and 3 years. I knew they got plea deals. I knew they got pled down to manslaughter, which allows them to get lesser charges. Felony murder doesn't allow that, and that's why there's a flaw in this system when a 15-year-old kid can get sentenced for a crime he didn't commit, while these people who did commit crimes can just admit to them, get pled down to a misdemeanor, and get out within 3 or 15 years. And so the system's flawed. The system needs attention to be brought to it. You guys are bringing attention to it right now, and that's very much appreciated because it doesn't always get the attention it needs.
Thank you, Rich. And I know, Layla, that was important for you to talk about this, right?
Yeah, always. I'm so thankful.
Absolutely. Rich, thank you, man. We appreciate you, as always, for all that you do. We're talking about the case of LaKeith Smith, who is, in our opinion, just unjustly sentenced to just a tragic sentencing against a crime he did not commit. He did not murder that man, Dante Washington.
Yes. He was stealing video games. He's a child. The officer should have been charged.
Okay, and so we don't know what's going on with the officer, but if you don't feel like this is fair and you're tired of it and you're fed up, once again, I want to keep giving out this email.
FreeLaKeith.com. FreeLaKeith.com. LaKeith. FreeLaKeith.com.
Tracy, did you want to add anything to before we conclude?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm still processing this myself, Mr. Checkpoint. Layla, I'm glad that you guys have given us all of this information, but not just information, ways that we can support. What would you want? President Biden just announced that he is running for re-election. What do you think? I know this isn't a federal case, so it can't go to a president. But what should a president be keeping in mind now? What should we be keeping in mind as we vote for our elected officials? What should we be demanding?
I think we need to be demanding less announcements and more change, more action. It's a lot of saying things and it's very little action being done. And I'm definitely disappointed in a lot of politicians for their lack of action in the injustice and criminal injustice system. It's disgusting how many people we have locked up for crimes that shouldn't be locked up for, including marijuana and other things. Felony murder rule should be abolished. There's so many reasons and things that, in my opinion, a liberal, progressive, or Democratic, president could do and change. And we're just getting more announcements. So I'd rather some change and real, just less words.
Absolutely.
Okay, Tracy, thank you. Once again, Sennett Devermont is with us. Layla Steinberg. We've been speaking about the case of LaKeith Smith, who was unjustly sentenced to initially 65 years in prison for, hold up on those applause, 65 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. He did not murder Dante Washington. And it's been reduced to 30 years. We still feel it's unjust. He served 8 already. Through your engagement, through your participation, we're hoping to reverse it all and get him, get him released, basically. Get him free, basically. Get his freedom, right?
Yeah, I mean, any 18-year-old, any adult who did the crime he committed would be free now for what he had done. Any 15-year-old who did what he had done would not have done 8 years in a maximum security prison. We just want what would happen to anybody else. He would be free, and that's what we want. He should be home, and that's it, period.
We want to send love to his mother, his family, his friends. His mother has been outspoken as well, right?
Yeah, Brontina Smith, she's been fighting this fight for over 8 years, organizing, traveling across the country, bringing people around the country together. And, she says it herself as like, he did something wrong. The time should fit the crime, right? Like, yes, he did something wrong. He should be held accountable. But this is not acceptable.
That's not his. And we want to send our love to his mother. I believe we actually have Brontina Smith on the line with us right now. I want to welcome you to the show, Brontina Smith. This is Sway Calloway, Heather B., and Tracy G. We do a show called Sway in the Morning on Sirius XM. And I want you to know that you have our support in bringing awareness to your son's case. Thank you for calling in. How are you today?
I'm okay, and I thank you all for giving me the platform on this morning. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. What is it? We've been over the case. We have Sennett here. We have Layla Steinberg. They're here as well. We've been taking calls from a lot of callers from across the country. We've been really promoting the email to get people involved. What is it you want the public to know?
Well, firstly, I want the public to know that our youth, first of all, they do deserve second chances. I want the public to understand that people do make mistakes, especially young people, because we have all made a mistake or two in our lifetime. I don't care who we are. We've all done something that we can look back and say, Dad, man, I shouldn't have did that, or Dad, man, what if I had got caught? We need to stop, crucifying our kids, man. We need to, embrace love, show them love, show them different angles, and let them know, that it's not over. Life's not over at 15. I think that the public should, just love on our kids more. I know that we do, some do, and also I think the public should, help out single moms as much as you can. Because sometimes we can't always watch what our kids do, and if you see them out there, doing the right thing, instead of scolding them, talk to them like young adults, or talk to them the way that you want a person to talk to you or your kid. We just have to do a better job, and we have to communicate better with our youth to understand what's going on in their minds. Because y'all, we know it's a lot of stuff going on with these young people, and we're like, Dad, what the hell? We don't know. So we need to try to find a way to get to them.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the last time you had a chance to speak to LaKeith? How is he doing? What can you tell us about him? And even being in the condition and circumstances that he's in, how has he evolved?
Right.
Got you. Me and LaKeith talked about a day or two ago, and he's the most humble person. Even in this situation, he knows that we are out here with our boots on the ground. He is very hopeful. And it's crazy because you would think that, in a situation that he's in, his spirit will kind of be kind of down, but he's never his spirit is never down. Even the day after the resentencing, it broke my heart. One, because I saw a look on my son's face that was kind of like, like despair to it, whatever. But then once I spoke with him, and the words that he shared with me, it was like I'm talking to a man, and he said, Mom, I know y'all got me. I know y'all like him fighting for me. It was just like a minor setback. I'm okay. Yeah. Let's keep going. And hearing my son say these words to me, it only put fire, under me. Just lace my boots up tighter, and I'm just ready to go.
This is the voice of Brontina Smith, the mother of LaKeith Smith, who's been sentenced to initially 65 years for murder he did not commit, and they got reduced to 30 years. And this happened when he was 15 years of age. Tracy, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, Miss Smith, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really, really, really just are trying to surround you with love. When an injustice happens, it never impacts that individual alone. It just spreads like a disease and touches so many. And oftentimes we look at sentences like this as the entire family has to endure the sentence. And all I have in my mind is, how are you coping? How, for other people who are in these circumstances and don't know what to do, to bring more hope into their life, to keep their chin up, you know, to believe that there will be a reversal of these dire circumstances. What can you share?
Let me first say, keep praying, keep God. I thank God daily for this circle of people that He put into my life. I never stopped talking about my son's case, about my son's story. I never stopped, even when people was like, well, that's the law, that's the law. You know what I mean? I kept getting it. Well, that's how it is. And I was like, yo, you remember back in the day when black people couldn't sit on the back of the bus? That Rosa Parks was tight, and she decided she gonna sit at the first seat that she saw it, and it was like at the front of the bus. Like, how did that go? Like, that was a law, but it was challenged, and the law was made. It was taken away where you can sit where you want to sit now, right? So it's kind of like there should be no penalty to. I'm looking for the right word, to go against what you don't believe in. So as for me and my son, we just stayed fast, and we just, we stayed praying. We just told the story, and for those who are going through it, don't shut up, don't be quiet. Keep posting about it. Yeah, like your family and friends on your Facebook list, like the people who know you, they gonna get tired of it, and they gonna not believe. They gonna stop sharing it. But guess what? It only takes one person to share it to get a fire, to get it going. So don't stop talking about it. Keep posting about it on social. Keep talking about it in the stores, in the malls, at the church, in the club, wherever you go. Just talk about it, because you don't know who, and you don't know. You see, you just don't know. So just don't give up, y'all. Like try your best to get your kids home. Listen, I'm doing it for LaKeith, but I'm also doing it for so many other girls and boys, because that's who they locked up, girls and boys.
Amen.
My son was a boy. He was 15. So this fight is not only for my son, it's for the country, the nation. It's to, first of all, stop this felony murder crap. It's to stop this law that gives police officers a right to kill people when they want to, because things like this could have been de-escalated very easily, especially on teen boys. You know what I mean? We got to stop giving police officers these 2-for-1s and these kills all, because that's exactly what it is. So y'all just keep praying over your baby. Don't wash your hands. No, do not wash your hands. Don't wash your hands, man. I know our kids can get on our last nerve, but y'all, we have to keep praying for them. We have to keep praying over them. Even when they're not around, when they because I get it. But y'all, we have to keep going. We have to keep praying, because without prayer, this whole thing is just in vain anyway. Just keep God, keep faith.
Brontina Smith, I want to send love and strength to you and your family. We'll keep talking it up just like you advised. We're gonna keep it going, and we got a lot of people going to the website.
FreeLaKeith.com. FreeLaKeith.com.
And we'll keep working to bring more awareness to it. I appreciate you calling in this morning. Hopefully one day we'll cross paths in person, okay?
Most definitely. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Love you.
And send our love to LaKeith. Tell them Sway, Heather B, and Tracy G, and our whole team. We're definitely here to support him, okay?
Hey, I'm excited to tell them.
Thank you. All right. God bless you. Have a powerful day. We appreciate you.
You all too.
Brontina Smith. Give her a round of applause, man. That's a powerful woman right there.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. Sennett, I want to thank you. Mr. Checkpoint, I want to thank you for coming by this morning and sharing this story. And if you go on his Instagram, and you're going to see all sorts of examples of how we can learn about our rights. You actually give verbal presentation of our rights. what we need to know about our rights when being confronted by police officers who may not be walking a straight line. That's why they call him Mr. Checkpoint. So thank you, brothers, for coming through. You put your life on the line when you do these things, man. And so I commend you for it.
Thank you. I appreciate for the mic and this platform, and it's really appreciated. Humbled to be here.
Absolutely. And Layla Steinberg, man, make sure y'all watch Dear Mama. Layla's all over it. You can see the Layla as a youth and the work she's been doing for decades. And Dear Mama, what is it on? FX. Yep. And then Hulu as well. And then also Aim for the Heart Foundation. And then she also works with our good friend Earl Sweatshirt, who's been up here before. We love Earl. And you brought that beautiful young artist here to
Fauna Hughes.
Fauna, yep, she came by.
Fauna's amazing.
She's amazing. And if you want to reach Layla, you can.
You can find me on my Instagram, Layla_Steinberg, or aimfortheheart.org.
Okay, and once again, we're going to give out the website. Send those emails. Let's keep flooding them.
FreeLaKeith.com. FreeLaKeith.com. LaKeith. FreeLaKeith.com.
And when you go on that website, you'll also be able to hear another song called LaKeith by Louis King.
Louis King, yeah, that song he did is incredible. It really is. It tells a story. I mean, it's so good.
Okay, we're going to end with that, okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Want to thank you for coming by. 19 Keys coming by tomorrow, so make sure y'all tune in to that as well. And here it is. On that note, citizens, we have nothing.
Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Left to say.